What's up guys? It's been 1.5 weeks since I collected my DYU. In fact, I'm riding to work right now and decided to, hey, let's make a video. So I just want to share with you some of the things about the DYU, what it is, what it isn't, the pros, the cons. And here I am. At Clarke Quay. And those are the boats over there. So if you're a tourist, your first time here in Singapore, you could ride in one of those boats out there in the distance and check out the Singapore River and the Singapore skyline as well. Before I actually start on the pros and cons about the DYU, let me just talk a little bit about my helmet. This is the POC Crane Pure. And if you have been following my channel for a while, you will realize that I actually have a lot of helmets. And this is the latest helmet that I bought. Don't get me wrong, I love the Woodrock helmet, I love the Spartan helmet that I have. But seriously, on a commute like this, on a daily commute like this, the Singapore weather goes to as high as 31, 32 degrees Celsius. I mean, if you're gonna be wearing one of those full face helmets, man, I tell you, it's gonna be extremely warm. You will perspire from the inside out, and I don't think it's gonna be very conducive at all. Now, if I was riding a much faster e-scooter like the Ultra, then obviously the Spartan would be ideal because it is a motorcycle helmet, and you need to be traveling at a particular speed in order to, get the wind, inside the helmet so that it cools down your entire head. I mean, does that make sense? So yeah, so obviously I was on the lookout for another helmet. I didn't want a helmet that looks like those racer kind of helmets, for those racer bikes. Yeah, you get what I mean. And the Crane Pure was something that suited the purpose. Firstly, because right now I have been wearing it all the way from my home to Clarke Quay, and all I can say is you don't even feel it on your head. Okay, that's number one. You don't really feel it on your head. And number two, as you ride, the amount of wind that flows through your head, it's really quite amazing. Sunny Singapore, today's weather is about 30 degrees Celsius. I'm not breaking out into a sweat wearing this helmet. So that's the amazing thing about this helmet. You almost don't feel it at all. So I highly recommend it. If you are looking for a helmet, I will highly recommend the Crane Pure. It's not the greatest looking helmet. This is the XL/XXL, and they give you additional pads so that you could custom fit the helmet, to better suit the size of your head. So let's just talk about the DYU right now. Now the thing about the DYU is it doesn't have suspension, right? It doesn't have a suspension. So that's the big problem I have with the DYU. Unlike the Dualtrons, if they've got that polyurethane suspensions, but the DYU, no suspension. So that is a big problem, and that's the reason why. This is the Brooks saddle. It's not cheap, it's about 170 Singapore dollars. The price of the DYU is about 650, so this is like what? It's almost 1/3 the price of the DYU, so that's kind of ridiculous. Oh, anyway, these are some of the additional enhancements that I've made to my DYU. I've added a kiddie seat in front so I can carry my daughter. I reduced the weight of my battery lights. So this entire setup that you see down here, including the saddle, which is actually really quite heavy, everything here falls just under 20 kilos. It's about 19.8 kilos. I've measured it. So with that amount of accessories and that particular setup, I still fall within the regulatory framework, meaning to say that my PMD is still compliant. So that's the great thing about this DYU. So I was talking about the suspension. The DYU has none, and that was the reason why I invested in that saddle. Now it's not ultra effective. I'm not asking you to go buy it. I mean, it is quite expensive. I have the same saddle installed on my Stealth, and it's like extremely plush feel because obviously my Stealth has full suspension. Now the DYU, it mitigates the bumpiness somewhat, But again, over very rough surfaces, I find myself having to stand up on the foot pegs just so that I don't feel the full impact of the bump whenever I ride over uneven terrain. So that's the number one thing about the DYU that I think needs to be. The DYU comes pre-installed with two brakes, one in the front, one in the back. Right now I only have the MP7s installed on the rear. I find that under high-speed braking it's a lot easier for me to control. Now, for all new riders out there, it's a very, very important thing that you take note of is that when you have two brakes, when you enter a corner or if you're going into a corner, if you're going to be tapping very, very hard on your front brakes, you will lose control of your DYU because you are obviously riding it like a bicycle. And if you're not familiar with a bicycle or if you're not familiar with riding a motorbike, this is what's going to happen. Whenever you're going relatively fast, I would say maybe when you're traveling at a top speed of 25 kilometers an hour, if you can only brake very, very hard in a straight line. If you're not going to be in a straight line, please use the rear brake or at least come to a slow stop. Don't just slam on the front brakes. And I tell you, if you slam on the front brakes, what's going to happen is that you will have an extremely bad fall. So that's number two about the DYU. Be very, very careful when you apply your stop brakes. And the third thing about the DYU would be, and this is purely my own advice, I will definitely not recommend that anyone modifies the DYU. Why? Well, unless you can find someone to put two motors, one in the front and one in the rear, then it will be relatively dangerous to modify the DYU, especially on just the rear motor itself. Now again, the nature of the DYU, given its weight, the stock weight is somewhere in the region of I think possibly 12 to 14 kilograms. And what happens with such a light frame is that if you're going to put too much power in the rear, what's going to potentially happen is that you're going to be popping wheelies the entire time. So say in the event, a very trigger happy event, when you're with your friends or you could just be by yourself and you decide like, hey, let's just see how much power the motor can do, and you decide to just go full throttle. You will, even if you are able to overcome the torque generated by the rear motor, it's going to be quite difficult for you to guard against the wobble generated in the front, because as you wheelie and you try to put more weight to the front, it's going to be a very unique experience. It's not something that I would definitely recommend. So that's just my 2 cents about modifying the DYU. So these are the 3 things that I actually think are the cons. Yes, I consider modification a con. So anyway, now what are the pros? I think the pros is something that everyone is familiar with. Number one, the DYU is extremely popular. Why? It's because of the weight, it's because of the size. Not just that, because of the way it looks, it doesn't look as menacing, as a Duotron Ultra. So just imagine if I ride my Duotron Ultra, firstly it looks extreme, it's rather big, so like 50 odd kilo, 60, and then plus the full face helmet, because remember, the faster you go, if you have a full face helmet, it's gonna feel very, very comfortable in your head. But with a DYU like this, something that looks like a little kiddie bike. So I guess that's the main reason. I mean, the acceptance level, it's really quite immense. That there's so many people doing the Deliveroo, Food Panda, food deliveries, riding the DYU now. So I think it's gonna be very popular. But are there improvements that can be made to the DYU? Yeah, for sure. And I'm really, really looking forward to manufacturers out there who would further improve the design, further enhance it, don't make it so rough. Perhaps, make it a lot more comfortable. And then I think we would have an somewhat, again, ultimate PMD that we can all use. Because, innovation, that's how innovation is, right? we shouldn't, we should always keep improving. So DYU is a start in the right direction, where it complies. The government's happy, everyone's happy, pedestrians, when they look at it, it doesn't look so menacing because it's all the speed is regulated. So overall, I think it's safe. Again, having said that, it is again the responsibility of the rider to make sure that you don't just weave in and out of traffic. The same rules still apply. We just have to be really, really safe. And also, that's one other thing, in the news lately, and that's a bit of it's something that I really also want to touch on. There was this person that came onto the public forum blaming the shop, saying that, oh, how could you modify an e-scooter, and then my nephew or something got into an accident. He openly in a public forum blamed the shop. The kid who got into an accident, the responsibility is on his parents. Alright, his parents were the ones who gave him the money to buy that e-scooter. And the reason why I'm seeing it now is because I have been looking at my analytics, and I realized that the demographics of my audience are between, I would say maybe a good 60% of you are between the ages of 24 to 45. And that's great, because then you guys will be able to spread the word, and just share, with anyone that you see out there that, oh, why is this shop selling something that's modified? It can be for a garage as well. It's not just e-scooter shops. Right now in Singapore, there's so many e-scooter shops. Are you gonna, and everybody, every little kid out there, they all want something fast. They all want something fast. Parents, do something about it. You can do something about it. You are the ones giving the kids the allowance. Make sure they don't buy themselves a scooter that can go very fast, or don't give them additional allowance to modify their e-scooters, because if they find a way, or if they find a shop, they will try many means and ways to do it. And if they don't go to a shop, they would still buy something online and modify it themselves. It's not too difficult. The battery pack may end up exploding, but they will do it some way, somehow. So as parents, it is your responsibility to make sure they don't anyhow spend their money. Okay, I'm not sure whether the video has gone on for long enough, but coming back to the DYU with an additional battery pack like mine, 90 kilometers is a very, very long distance. It's very convenient. Again, if it starts raining, you can just hop onto the MRT and you'll be alright. Plus, you can help the ridership, the declining ridership that SMRT is announcing right now. They announced a loss in the first quarter of this year or something, saying that ridership has fell. They lost about 86.2 million. So I guess if you're compliant, PMD breaks down, please remember to ride the MRT, help the Singapore government. Yep. And on that note, my video is done for today. And as always, ride safe. See you soon. Thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to my channel.
So yeah, that basically concludes the